Hello, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to another electrifying review. Or will it be? Because I'm here to look at a film that dropped yesterday, March 14th, 2025, and it is the latest movie that is dropped on Netflix, and it's the latest movie that is being offered to us by the Russo brothers, who, as you know, they did a lot for Marvel. They did Captain America, I think it was either Winter Soldier or Civil War, I'm not quite sure which one they did. And then, of course, as we know, they did the last two Avenger movies, which were just epic. And of course, because of that, and them teaming up with Netflix, you just assume that what they're going to come up with is going to be amazing. And what they've delivered for us is something, for me personally, that's a mixed bag. But we're going to get into it. And what I'm talking about is none other than their latest sci-fi movie, Electric State. Now, Electric State, I do know, is based on a book based off a novel. Apparently, the novel's a lot darker than the movie, which in many ways I think is what affects the movie, is the fact that the book has a darker tone, but what they did with the movie, they kind of made it more light-hearted, made it more family friendly, which, like I say, I think is a thing that is a negative, where they've taken a book which has a great following. There's many fans that love the book, and then what they've done is they've softened it, the story, and made it more like a buddy adventure movie rather than the sci-fi epic it's meant to be. But here we go. Let's have a look at The Electric State. So The Electric State is a 2025 American science fiction action adventure film produced and directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. Its screenplay by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely is loosely based on the 2018 illustrated novel by Simon Stalenhag. The film stars Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt, alongside Ki Q Kwan, Jason Alexander, Woody Harrison, Anthony Mackie, Brian Cox, Jenny Slate, Giancarlo Esposito, and Stanley Tucci. And the budget for this movie is 320 million, which is probably the biggest budget I can remember for a movie that's going directly to streaming. There's been other streaming movies like the Rebel Moon movies. I'm sure they had massive budget. A one that went to Amazon Prime, Tomorrow Wars, which also starred Chris Pratt, which I thought a brilliant movie. That had quite a big budget, but that originally was meant to go to theaters, but of course, because of the pandemic, it ended up going straight onto streaming. But the story of this book, the book adaptation to the film, is basically, it's a futuristic 1990s. You've got Millie Bobby Brown's character, who is Michelle. You have Chris Pratt, who is Staff Sergeant John D. Keats. Ki Hugh Kwan plays Dr. Clark Amherst. You also have Stanley Tucci as Ethan Skate. Woody Norman as Chris Green. You have Giancarlo Esposito as Colonel Marshall Bradbury. And the other key cast member of this is Anthony Mackie as Herman. So the film starts off with this futuristic 1990s, and basically the world has become addicted the virtual reality VR, and basically you've got these friendly looking robots. They don't look scary at all. They've got all these friendly looking robots who have all had, different jobs, different tasks in the world. And all of a sudden, obviously, because they do have their own kind of personalities and have built, that they are sentient, basically, they now kind of rebel against the world, and they want just to be, basically, they want the same rights as human beings. And a war begins. And when the war begins, it's robots versus machine. Then you have Stanley Tucci's character, who comes up with a way to kind of stop the war, but he also comes up with a way for humanity to kind of still function, and that's these VR sets that humans have attached to their heads, and they're just addicted to VR. They live in their own bubbles. But during the war, Millie Bobby Brown's brother is seriously injured and killed. And when that happens, she's totally heartbroken, totally broke down. And then basically the story progresses where this robot called Cosmo approaches her and breaks into her house, who seemingly knows the location of her brother, who now she believes is alive and hasn't died, and she's been lied to. So that sets this tone for this adventure and mystery for Millie Bobby Brown to John Cosmo, who then bumps into Chris Pratt's character. And they go on this adventure to try and discover if our brother really is still alive or if he's dead, or the mystery behind it. You find out Chris Pratt's character's story. He was in the army in the war, and just as he's about to be killed, this robot saves him, and basically he befriends the robot, and they come, it's basically Rocket, and it's basically Rocket from the Guardians and Star-Lord. It's basically their relationship, but except instead of having Bradley Cooper doing Rocket, you've got Anthony Mackie in control of this amazing, incredible robot, who has, he's large, he's grand, but he's also, there's different forms of this robot, which you'll find out throughout the movie. And then, of course, you've got the two villains of the story, which is Stanley Tucci and Giancarlo Esposito, who, Stanley Tucci, sorry, I was going to say Stanley Cooper there for some reason. Stanley Tucci hires Esposito's character to hunt down Millie Bobby Brown's character and try and stop them from locating him, the main facility where the secrets abode inside. So that's pretty much the plot. It's a rescue mission, it's a mystery mission, it's a futuristic mission. And along the way, they meet different robots, good and bad. And it's like an action, I wouldn't say an action adventure movie. It's more or less just a mystery. It's more like a futuristic mystery movie for me. There's not much action that goes on, and the action that does happen, it's nothing large or grand in scale. It's very much kept within the locations that they're set in, which, after they leave the main city, they're kind of crossing this western plains in what they call it's like a forbidden area. It's called the X zone, where it's like in between where humans live and where the robots live. There's like this place in the middle called X, and so they have to try and get through X to get to where they're going. And that's the basic plot. I've never read the book, but the book is apparently more dark than the movie. And what I found with Netflix is they've basically taken the story and they've softened it for a family audience. So for me personally, this will be a great family movie for a family audience. As for me, I want a little bit more meat with me, action and sci-fi, and this didn't deliver that quite for me. It's overall 320 million is the budget of this movie, and for 320 million, what you get is amazing visuals. The effects alone are fantastic. Like the robot beside Millie Bobby Brown is all CGI. I think of course on the set they might have like the sticks with the imagery of the robot on for the actors to interact with. But overall, the 320 million has been spent on the CGI effects of these brilliant looking robots. They do look amazing. They really, really do. And there's even the dark robots there. Those robots are basically they're like zombies where they're living in this land called the X, and they basically have to demolish each other, eat each other, steal each other's parts basically to survive. So, and there's some of the action sequences near the final of the movie, which, as you can see, it's money well spent when it comes to visuals, when it comes to set pieces. Like, it's a lot of practical massive sets with all the CGI around it, which works wonderfully. So I'm not gonna, say anything negative about the effects. But when it comes to the story itself, I just feel as if, because I've spent so much money on budget effects, locations, and practical sets, that they've skimped on, I think, what they could have made a really compelling, interesting story. The story isn't anything I haven't seen before. This very much reminded me of The Creator that came out in 2023. Some of the effects and the locations and some of the, the designs of everything that was going on, cities, all of that, reminded me of both Blade. Like, for example, some more of the designs. Some of these are from artwork from the book, or from like the potential of what this film could have been, which makes it look like more somber tone, a more darker tone. But Blade Runner and The Creator definitely gives me these kind of vibes straight off the bat. And that looks terrifying, but we don't get anything quite like that in the movie because, like I say, they've softened the story for a family audience. But the story itself is nothing new. It's nothing that we haven't seen before. It's a mixture of things we've seen before. It's hard to create something more original these days, especially when everything's a copycat, or, you can still make, I've always said you can still make a familiar story, but give it something unique or something compelling that makes it stand out. And I feel as like this didn't do any of that. It's things that we've seen before. And as for the cast, Millie Bobby Brown, as always, she's the golden girl of Netflix. I think she is an incredible actress, but outside of Stranger Things, there's nothing that's captured my eye that well with her. And it's nothing to do with her as a person. I just feel as if I'm starting to get this realization or this feeling that she's somebody that's just made for TV. I feel as if she's a television actress or a streaming film actress. I don't see big budget actress in her performances. I feel like every role she's performed in and everything she's given off is very much what we've seen before, from Stranger Things to Damsel, which was a film that came out last year, which I did a review on, which was an okay, fantasy movie, but it didn't really do anything that's made it stand out from things we've already had. Chris Pratt, for me, him, Millie Bobby Brown, Esposito, and of course Stanley Tucci, they're all stereotypically typecast in this movie. You've got Chris Pratt, who plays the lovable rogue hero with, who has a sidekick. Millie Bobby Brown's, the the damsel in distress, or the girl who's looking to, save her brother, and she goes on a quest. Stanley Tucci's the stereotypical, CEO, multi-billionaire of a company called Century, who's controlling all the AI in the world. And then you've got Esposito, who's playing the stereotypical bounty hunter, huntsman, ex-military sergeant who goes around killing robots, and his personality and everything that he does is things that we've seen from him before. It's nothing new. So a lot of the characters and a lot of the cast are typecast. It's, for me personally, it's like they're sticking to what they know, which is a good thing. It's also, it gets boring. It gets kind of boring when you're seeing the same things from the same actors all the time. Chris Pratt, I think he did an amazing job in Tomorrow Wars. I've seen something slightly different. Is it The Terminal, which is a show on Amazon Prime? He's brilliant on that. I see a different side of him in that. But it's very hard when you've been cast, I guess, in two popular properties, Stranger Things and Marvel, to make yourself stand out from other work. A lot of actors have had the same problem. When you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, when you look at Sylvester Stallone, the action actors that stick to the same thing because they know what brings money to their bank. So they're not kind of actors that are going to go out of their way to try and do these crucial performances that could bag them an Oscar. I don't say that in these individuals' futures. Maybe Esposito and maybe Stanley Tucci, and of course somebody that I think didn't get enough screen time is Key. Is this Key? Kwan. He for me. He's only in the film for a small time, but for me, I really enjoyed his performance, and I really think and wish that they had give more, emphasis and give him more screen time, because he does play a bit of a part on Millie Bobby Brown's character and how she goes about to locate her brother. He plays a key part in that. But away from that, and away from the typecast of the actors and the characters, what sells this movie is the effects, is the robot, is the locations, is the massive sets. The world looks grand and epic. It's very much similar to how I had feelings for The Creator, where that was just an epic sci-fi adventure which had great sets, great locations, amazing sceneries, amazing special effects, but the story itself wasn't anything that was anything new, or there was nothing that stood out about it, but you were sucked in by everything that was going on your screens. And this is very much like that, but for a family audience. So this is definitely a great family film. As for me, it doesn't quite hit the mark. I just wish Hollywood or even Netflix would take the risk. So what I mean by that is, you've got, all these amazing books that are getting transformed into movies that have a darker tone, that, aren't always family friendly. They have to show the nitty gritty sometimes. They help progress a character or help to progress the plot points of a story. And instead of doing the book justice, they skip over it and they change the tone of the book just to suit a certain audience, because they're basically frightened to take the risk. And I wish Hollywood would sometimes take the risk, because if they did, we maybe get something special that's gonna, last the test of time in fans and film lovers' minds. Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, he made that book adaptation from book to film, and he did an amazing job. Another person who I think did a cracking job when it came to adapting a book is Steven Spielberg with Ready Player One. Whether that was totally, verbatim from book to screen, or if it was fully the same tone as the book. I don't know, but I definitely felt Steven Spielberg looked at that book, made it a passion project, and really put his all into it. And I think he did a fantastic job with it. But as for this, I feel as if they've been frightened to take the risk on where they could have took this movie. Especially when, like I say, you see some of the artwork, like how scary that looks compared to like how they actually made the scary robots appear on the main screen. So that's them actually in the movie, and of course that's from artwork. But as you can see, even the tones and the feel of that image, it's a lot somber. It's a lot, gives you a bit more of a chill, where that really is too clean cut for me. But that's just my opinion. But like I say, it's an okay film and I think it's, they've spent the money well. They haven't cut corners. I was expecting a lot more from the Russo brothers, if I'm totally honest. I was, especially with how well they did with Avengers and Captain America. But obviously, this is what they've given us. And, I do think it'll do well for family audiences. But anyone who's a fan of the book, who likes more, darker toned sci-fi, or a sci-fi with a bit of an edge to them, I don't think this will appeal to them. But that's just my opinion. If I'm going to rate Electric State, I'm probably going to give it a 6 out of 10. Just because money well spent, like I say, a great budget, the cast do what's written on the tin for them, but I do think a lot of them are now typecast, and as much as I like Millie Bobby Brown, I do think she's not really delivering anything more that we haven't seen before. Chris Pratt, very much the same. But in all, it was a fun movie for what it was. I do think if you're going with an open mind, you will probably enjoy it. But for me, it just didn't quite hit the mark. But that's just my opinion. If you have seen Electric State, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like I say, it gets a 6 out of 10 for me. Keep on enjoying your movies. Keep on enjoying all things entertainment. And I'll catch you all at the next one.